The ship drifted alone in the darkness between stars. It had been traveling for a very long time. Its metal skin was burned. Tiny rocks from space had punched holes in its outer layers. Radiation from distant suns had stripped away its paint, but somehow, against all logic, the ship was still in one piece. Far away, another vessel moved through the same darkness. This ship was different. It was smooth and beautiful, shaped like a great sea creature from a water world. Its hull shimmered with colors that shifted like oil on water. This was the Whisper of Tides, a science vessel belonging to the Galactic Concord. Inside the Whisper of Tides, a crew went about their work. They were tall and graceful beings. Their skin was smooth and wet, colored in shades of blue and green. They had large dark eyes that could see in dim light, and their long fingers were webbed for swimming. They came from a peaceful ocean world, and they were known across the galaxy as careful scholars who studied the stars. Senior researcher Aura sat at her station on the bridge. Her webbed fingers moved across the glowing controls as she checked the scanner readings. It was a quiet day. The ship was mapping an uncharted region of space, looking for new planets and recording data for the Concord archives. This was the kind of work Aura loved. It was calm. It was safe. It was predictable. Then the scanner made a sound she had never heard before. Aura leaned forward. Her large eyes narrowed as she studied the display. Something had appeared at the edge of their scanning range. It was small, but it was definitely there. And it was definitely artificial. "Captain," she said. Her voice was soft and musical as all voices were. "I am detecting an unknown object. It appears to be a vessel." Captain turned from her command chair. She was older than most of the crew, and her blue skin had faded to a pale gray with age. But her mind was still sharp, and her authority was absolute. "Show me," she said. Aura transferred the image to the main display. The entire bridge crew stopped their work to look. On the screen, they could see a shape floating in the void. It was clearly a ship of some kind, but it looked wrong. It looked primitive. The design was blocky and ugly, with none of the smooth curves that all civilized species used. Its surface was covered in strange markings and symbols. "I do not recognize the design," said Navigator. He was young and nervous, always worried about unknown things. "It matches nothing in the Galactic Codex." "That is impossible," said First Officer. "The Codex contains records of every spacefaring species in the known galaxy. Every single one." "And yet," said Aura, "this ship is not in the Codex. I have checked 3 times. Captain stood from her chair and walked closer to the display. She studied the strange vessel for a long moment. In her many years of service, she had seen thousands of ships from hundreds of species. She had never seen anything like this. "What is it made of?" she asked. Aura checked her readings. "The hull appears to be constructed from iron alloys and carbon composites, very basic materials, very primitive." "Primitive?" said. "How primitive?" "Perhaps 1,000 years behind current Concord technology, maybe more." A murmur of disbelief passed through the bridge crew. No species with such basic technology should be capable of traveling this far into deep space. The distances were too great. The dangers were too many. It simply could not be done. "Is the vessel active?" asked Captain. "Minimal power readings," said Aura. "Most systems appear to be offline, but—" She paused, checking her display again. Her webbed fingers trembled slightly. "Captain, I am detecting life signs." The bridge went silent. "Are you certain?" asked. "Yes, Captain. They are faint and weak, but they are definitely there. Something is alive inside that ship." Captain felt a chill run through her body. They were not a brave species. They preferred to observe from a safe distance. They did not like surprises, and they definitely did not like unknown life forms drifting in uncharted space. But she was also a captain of the Galactic Concord. The Concord had one sacred duty above all others: to document and study all spacefaring civilizations. If there was a new species out there, It was her responsibility to make contact. "Set a course for the vessel," she said. "Approach with caution, raise our shields to maximum, and prepare the first contact protocols." The crew hesitated. She could feel their fear. She shared it. "Move," she said more firmly. "That is an order." The whisper of tides changed direction and began to approach the drifting ship. As they got closer, the strange vessel became clearer on their displays. It was even more damaged than they had first thought. Entire sections of the hull had been torn open. Frozen gases leaked from cracks in the metal. One of the ship's engines was completely destroyed. "How is anything still alive in there?" whispered. "The damage is catastrophic." "I do not know," said Aura. "But the life signs remain steady. Whatever is in there, it has survived conditions that would kill any known species." Captain felt her fear grow deeper. What kind of creature could survive such destruction? What kind of being could live in a ship that was barely holding together? They moved closer still. Now they could see more details. The strange symbols on the hull were some kind of writing system, but the conquered translators could not decode it. There were small windows along the side of the ship, dark and lifeless. And there, on the front of the vessel, was a name painted in large letters. "Can you read that?" asked. Aura worked her controls. "The translator is processing. It appears to be a name. The vessel is called Arcturus Dream." "Arcturus," said, "that is the name of a star in a region of space that the conquered has never explored." "Yes," said Aura, "a region we call the Silence." Another wave of fear passed through the crew. The Silence was a forbidden zone. Centuries ago, conquered exploration vessels had tried to chart that region of the galaxy. Many of them never returned. Those that did brought back reports of hostile environments, deadly radiation, and planets so dangerous that even observation probes could not survive. The conquered had declared the entire region off limits. No one went there. No one. "This ship came from the Silence," said. His voice was shaking now. "But nothing can survive there, the reports say." "I know what the reports say," said Captain, "but this ship is here, and something inside it is alive. We must find out what." She turned to Aura. "Can you trace the ship's origin point? Where exactly did it come from?" "I am trying, Captain. The ship has an origin beacon, but it is encrypted. I need time to decode it." "Then take the time you need. I want answers." The whisper of tides held position beside the drifting vessel. Minutes passed in tense silence as Aura worked on the encryption. The rest of the crew watched the strange ship through the windows, afraid of what they might learn. Finally, Aura made a small sound of success. "I have decoded the beacon. The origin coordinates are here." A star map appeared on the main display. It showed a small yellow star in the heart of the Silence. Around the star orbited several planets, and one of those planets was highlighted in red, the origin point of the mysterious ship. "What is that world?" asked Captain. Aura searched the conquered archives. "The planet has a designation in our old records. It was surveyed by long-range probes over 1,000 years ago, before the Silence was declared forbidden. The name is Terra 3. "What do we know about it?" "Very little. The survey probes could not get close enough for detailed scans. The planet's environment was too hostile." Aura pulled up the ancient data files. "Terra 3 orbits at a distance that allows liquid water on its surface. It has a thick atmosphere composed primarily of nitrogen and oxygen." "Oxygen," said, "that is a corrosive gas. It destroys organic tissue." "Yes. The atmosphere of Terra 3 contains approximately 21% free oxygen. Breathing it would be fatal to most known species." Aura continued reading the old records. "The planet also has extreme temperature variations. Some regions drop far below the freezing point of water. Others rise high enough to kill most life forms in minutes." "So it is," said. "That explains why we never explored it." "It is more than a captain." Aura's voice had become very quiet, much more. She brought up the planetary classification system. Every world in the known galaxy was assigned a class number based on how dangerous it was. Class 1 worlds were perfect for life, peaceful paradises with gentle climates and no predators. Class 5 worlds had some dangers but were still livable. Class 10 worlds were extremely hostile, suitable only for the hardiest species. The classification for Terra 3 filled the screen, and every on the bridge felt their hearts stop. Class 15 DATHWRLD, Survival Probability, 0.0002%. That cannot be correct, said. Class 15 is the maximum rating. It is reserved for planets where survival is essentially impossible. The data is accurate, said Aura. Terra 3 is not just hostile, it is one of the most dangerous worlds ever recorded. She began reading the survey details, her voice growing more horrified with each word. The planet has constant tectonic activity, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. The crust is unstable across most of the surface. The oceans cover 70% of the world and contain predatory life forms of extreme size and aggression. Predators in the oceans, said weakly. What about the land? Worse, the land masses host predators in every environment. Forests, deserts, mountains, frozen regions, all of them contain creatures designed to kill. But the most dangerous element is not the large predators. Aura looked up from her display. Her large eyes were filled with fear. Terra 3 hosts microscopic organisms, bacteria, viruses, parasites. Organisms so small they cannot be seen but capable of destroying a body from the inside. Some of them can kill within hours. Others take years, slowly consuming their host. The planet is covered in invisible death. The bridge was silent. No one could speak. The idea of such a world was beyond their comprehension. There is more, said Aura. The planet's star produces harmful radiation. The magnetic field provides some protection, but surface life is still exposed to dangerous levels. The weather systems are violent and unpredictable. Storms can form without warning, bringing destructive winds, floods, and lightning, massive electrical discharges from the sky. Stop, said Captain. Her voice was barely a whisper. I have heard enough. She stared at the display showing the drifting ship. The Arcturus Dream, a vessel from a Class 15, a world where survival was supposed to be impossible. But something had survived there. Something had not just survived but thrived. Something had built a civilization, developed technology, and constructed a ship capable of traveling between the stars. This cannot be real, said. No intelligent species could evolve on such a world. The conditions would kill them before they could develop. It goes against everything we know about how life works. And yet, said, the ship is here. The life signs are real. Something from that impossible world is floating beside us right now. She made a decision. It terrified her, but she made it anyway. Prepare a boarding team, she said. We are going inside that ship. Captain said, that is extremely dangerous. We do not know what is in there. If the creature from a Class 15 world is hostile. If the creature from a Class 15 world wanted to harm us, we would probably already be dead, said. Whatever survived that planet, whatever crossed the stars in a broken ship and is still alive after all this time, I need to see it. I need to understand it. This is the most important discovery in conquered history. I will not run away from it. The boarding team assembled in the airlock. There were 6 of them, including Aura, who had volunteered despite her fear. They wore protective suits and carried scanning equipment. They had no weapons. They did not believe in weapons. The airlock cycled open, and they crossed the short distance to the Arcturus Dream. The strange ship's airlock was different from theirs, but they managed to force it open using their tools. The interior was dark and cold. Their lights cut through the blackness, revealing a cramped corridor lined with pipes and cables. The construction is very basic, said one of the team members. No elegance, no efficiency, everything is functional but crude. They built what they needed with what they had, said Aura. For a species from a Class 15 world, simple survival is already a miracle, Artistic design would be a luxury. They moved deeper into the ship. The damage was even worse on the inside. Panels had been torn from the walls. Wires hung loose from the ceiling. In some places, the floor was covered with a dark substance that might have been dried blood. "The life signs are coming from ahead," said Aura, checking her scanner. "One level down, in what appears to be a cargo bay." They found a ladder and climbed down. The cargo bay was larger than the corridors but still cramped by standards. Containers were stacked against the walls, held in place by straps and nets. And there, in the corner of the bay, their lights found the survivor. It was sitting with its back against the wall. It was wrapped in a thin suit that covered most of its body. The suit was torn in several places, and the skin beneath was pale and strange. The creature had 4 limbs, 2 legs, 2 arms, and a single head with 2 forward-facing eyes. Its body was covered in patches of some kind of fiber, maybe hair, and it was watching them. The boarding team froze. No one moved, no one spoke. The creature did not attack. It did not run. It simply sat there studying them with its strange forward-facing eyes. Then slowly, it raised one of its upper limbs. The limb ended in a hand with 5 separate fingers. The creature spread those fingers wide and held them up, palm facing outward. And then, impossibly, incredibly, it smiled. The expression was terrifying to the creature pulled back its lips to reveal rows of white teeth. On any other world, such a display would be a threat. It would mean, "I am going to eat you." But there was something different about this smile, something almost friendly. The creature made a sound. Its mouth opened and closed and noises came out. The translator in Aura's suit worked furiously, trying to decode the sounds. After a moment, words began to form. "Hello," the creature said. "I am commander of the United Earth Expeditionary Corps. I come in peace, please. Do you have any water? I have been alone for a very long time." Aura felt her legs go weak. She had to steady herself against the wall. This creature, this being from an impossible world, was not attacking. It was asking for water. It was communicating. It was intelligent. And there were more of them. The creature had said United Earth. That meant there was a planet, a civilization, an entire species of these beings living on a Class 15, building ships, reaching for the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. Aura stepped forward. Her fear was still there, but something else was growing alongside it. Curiosity, wonder, the need to understand. "I am Senior Researcher Aura," she said. "Of the galactic conquered vessel Whisper of Tides. We detected your ship and came to investigate." The creature smiled again. This time the expression seemed less terrifying, almost warm. "Thank you," she said. "I thought I was going to die out here. I thought no one would ever find me." She tried to stand but stumbled. She was weak, clearly exhausted. "How long have I been drifting? I lost track of time." Aura checked her scanner. "Based on the decay of your ship's radioactive fuel, I estimate 8 of your solar cycles." 8 years, said she, laughed, a strange barking sound that made the flinch. 8 years alone in a broken ship. That's a new personal record. 8 years, alone, in a dying ship in the void between stars with no hope of rescue. Any would have gone mad within months. Any known species would have given up and died. But this creature had survived. This being from a Class 15 had simply endured. Aura felt a new emotion rising in her chest. It took her a moment to identify it. It was fear, deep primal fear. Because if this species could survive 8 years alone in the darkness of space, what else could they survive? What else had they already survived? What had that terrible, beautiful, deadly world made them into? She needed to know more. The whole galaxy needed to know more. But as she looked into strange, forward-facing eyes, she wondered if the galaxy was ready for the answer. The medical bay of the Whisper of Tides was not designed for creatures like. The beds were too soft, made for bodies that needed constant moisture. The air was too humid. thick with the water vapor that the amphibious crew needed to breathe comfortably. The lights were too dim, adjusted for eyes that had evolved in the dark depths of an ocean world. But did not complain. She sat on the edge of a bed that was wrong for her in every way, drinking water from a container that was not shaped for human hands, and she seemed perfectly content. "This is the best water I have had in years," she said. "Clean, fresh, no recycled taste. You have no idea how good this is." Senior researcher Aura stood at a careful distance, watching the human with a mixture of fascination and fear. In the hours since they had brought aboard, the crew had been struggling to understand what they were dealing with. Their medical scanners had analyzed the human's biology, and the results had been disturbing. "Your body," said Aura, "is very different from ours." Looked up, her forward-facing eyes focused on Aura with an intensity that made the uncomfortable. That was a predator's gaze. Eyes that faced forward were designed to track prey, to judge distance for an attack. Eyes were on the sides of their heads, made to watch for danger from all directions. The difference said everything about how their species had evolved. "Different how?" asked. "Your blood contains iron," said Aura. "The same metal we use to build ships. It flows through your body, carrying oxygen to your cells." "Yes, that is how human blood works. Is that strange to you?" "We use copper in our blood. Most species do. Iron is toxic to us." Made that barking sound again, laughing she had called it. "Iron is toxic to you. That is interesting. What else did your scanners find?" Aura hesitated. She did not want to offend this creature, but she also needed to understand. "Your body is filled with bacteria, trillions of microscopic organisms living inside you. Many of them could cause deadly infections in other species, but they seem to be helping you, living with you in balance." "Ah, yes, the gut bacteria. We need them to digest food properly. Without them, we would starve." "You have made peace with organisms that would kill us. You have turned them into allies." Shrugged, it was a strange gesture, a lifting of the shoulders that seemed to mean she did not think the matter was important. "We did not have a choice. They were there from the beginning. We evolved together." Captain entered the medical bay. She had been speaking with the Galactic Concord headquarters, reporting the discovery of the human ship. The response from headquarters had been immediate and alarming. They wanted to know everything about this new species. They wanted to know if humans were a threat. Commander said, "I have been reviewing the information about your home world, the planet you call Earth. What would you like to know?" Moved to a display panel and activated it. The screen showed a projection of Terra 3, Earth, rotating slowly in the void. It was a beautiful world in some ways, blue and green and white, wrapped in swirls of cloud, but they knew better than to trust that beauty. "Our records classify Earth as a Class 15, said, "the highest danger rating in our system. I need to understand how your species survived there." Stared at the image of her home. For a moment, her expression changed. Something soft entered her eyes, something that might have been longing or love. Then she blinked and the softness was gone. "Earth is not easy," she said. "I will not pretend it is, but it is home. We adapted." "Adapted to what exactly?" Stood from the bed. She was taller than and her movements were strange, direct, efficient, almost aggressive. When she walked, it was with a purpose that suggested she was always ready to move quickly. "Let me tell you about Earth," she said. She pointed at the image on the display. "That blue color is water, oceans. They cover most of our planet. The water is filled with salt, so we cannot drink it. We have to find fresh water from rivers and lakes and rain. For most of our history, finding clean water was one of our biggest challenges." "Your planet has abundant water, but you cannot use most of it," said Aura. "That seems cruel." "Cruel is a good word for Earth. The oceans are also filled with predators, sharks, jellyfish, creatures with poison in their tentacles, giant squids that can pull a small boat under the surface. We learned to build boats and ships to cross the water, but the ocean never stopped being dangerous. She moved her finger to the land masses. The land is divided into many different environments. We call them biomes. There are forests filled with trees, tall plants that can grow for hundreds of years. There are deserts where almost no water falls and the temperature can kill in hours. There are frozen regions where the cold can stop your heart in minutes. And there are mountains so tall that the air becomes too thin to breathe at the top. How did your species live in so many dangerous places? We moved around. Humans are not specialized for one environment like most species. We can adapt to almost anything. When it was cold, we made clothes from animal skins. When it was hot, we found shade and water. When food was scarce, we traveled to find more. We are generalists. We survive by being flexible. Captain was recording everything, but she still could not fully believe what she was hearing. Tell me about the predators on your land masses. Smiled. That teeth-showing expression was starting to seem less threatening to the, but only slightly. Where do I begin? She said. There are big cats, lions, tigers, leopards. They are fast and strong and have sharp teeth and claws. They hunt large prey, including humans if we are not careful. There are bears, massive creatures that can weigh as much as 5 adult humans and can run faster than we can. There are wolves that hunt in packs, working together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. How did you survive against such creatures? We hunted them back. Humans are predators too. We are not the strongest or the fastest, but we have 2 advantages. First, we can think, we can plan, we can make traps and weapons. Second, we have endurance. We can chase an animal for hours, for an entire day if necessary, until it collapses from exhaustion. We call it persistence hunting. Most animals can run faster than us in short bursts, but we can run longer than almost anything else on Earth. Aura felt a chill. You hunt by exhausting your prey. You chase creatures until they cannot run anymore. Yes, it is one of our oldest hunting methods. Our bodies are designed for it. We can sweat to cool ourselves while we run. Most animals cannot do that. They overheat and have to stop. We just keep coming. The image this created in Aura's mind was deeply disturbing. She imagined a creature running for its life, looking back and seeing the human still following, always following, never stopping, never tiring. What kind of nightmare must that be? But predators are not the biggest danger on Earth, said. The most dangerous things are the ones you cannot see. The microscopic organisms, said, our records mention them. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, they are everywhere on Earth, in the soil, in the water, in the air, in our food. We are constantly surrounded by things that want to invade our bodies and consume us from the inside. Spoke about this horror as if it were simply a fact of life. Throughout our history, diseases have killed more humans than all our wars combined. Plagues swept across entire continents, killing millions of people. The Black Death killed almost half of Europe. Smallpox destroyed entire civilizations in the Americas. How did you survive such things? Our bodies learn to fight them. We have an immune system, an army of cells inside us that hunts down invaders and destroys them. It is not perfect. Many of us still die from disease. But over thousands of years, our immune systems have become very good at recognizing threats and responding to them. And for the diseases your immune systems cannot handle. We invented medicine. We learned to create chemicals that kill bacteria. We developed vaccines that teach our immune systems to recognize threats before they can hurt us. We built hospitals and trained doctors to repair our bodies when they break down. We declared war on disease, and we are winning. Captain was struggling to process this information. The idea of a species that was constantly at war with invisible enemies, that had built its entire medical science around fighting off microscopic attackers, was almost beyond comprehension. Tell me about your planet's weather, she said. Laughed again, but this time the sound was darker. Earth's weather is trying to kill us all the time. We have hurricanes, massive spinning storms that form over warm oceans and destroy everything in their path. We have tornadoes, smaller but even more violent columns of spinning wind that can tear buildings apart. We have floods that drown entire cities. We have droughts that kill crops and cause famines. We have blizzards that bury people in snow and freeze them to death. And lightning, said Aura. Our records mentioned lightning. Yes, during storms, electrical charges build up in the clouds. When the charge becomes too great, it releases as a bolt of lightning, a massive electrical discharge that can set fires, destroy buildings, and kill any living thing it touches. It is one of the most terrifying natural phenomena on Earth, and it happens thousands of times every day. The crew members were staring at with expressions of pure horror. This was a world where the sky itself attacked its inhabitants, where the weather could kill without warning, where invisible organisms waged constant war on every living thing. There is more, said. The ground itself is dangerous. Earth's crust is broken into pieces called tectonic plates. These plates move constantly, grinding against each other. When the pressure builds up too much, we get earthquakes, sudden violent shaking that can level cities in seconds. And where the plates pull apart or push together, we get volcanoes, mountains that explode with molten rock and ash, destroying everything for miles around. Your own planet is trying to shake you off its surface, said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Earth is geologically active. It has been that way for billions of years. We have learned to predict earthquakes and volcanic eruptions to some degree, but we can never fully control them. We just build our cities and hope for the best. Had moved to her data console. She was pulling up more information from the conquered archives, comparing what was saying to the ancient survey data. Everything matched. If anything, the reality was worse than the record suggested. Your son, she said. Tell me about your son. Sol, a yellow dwarf star. It provides light and heat to our planet, which makes life possible. But it also produces ultraviolet radiation that damages our skin and eyes. Too much exposure to sunlight can cause cancer, a disease where our own cells turn against us and grow out of control. We protect ourselves with clothing and chemicals we put on our skin, but the sun is always a threat. And your planet's day cycle? About 24 hours, half in light, half in darkness. Our bodies are designed to sleep during the dark period, but modern humans have learned to function in both. Some of us work at night and sleep during the day. Our flexibility lets us operate at all hours. First Officer had been silent throughout this conversation, listening with growing terror. Now he spoke up. Commander, I have a question that has been troubling me. Please ask. With all of these dangers, the predators, the diseases, the weather, the geological activity, the radiation, how did your species ever survive long enough to become intelligent? How did you not go extinct millions of years ago? Was quiet for a moment. She seemed to be thinking carefully about how to answer. We almost did go extinct, she said finally. Many times. There were ice ages that nearly wiped us out, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun and killed most of the plants and animals we depended on, diseases that killed huge portions of our population. But somehow, a few of us always survived. A few humans always found a way to keep going. But why? What made you so hard to kill? Looked at with those predator eyes. But now, Aura saw something else in her gaze, something that looked almost like pride. Because we refused to die, said. That is the simplest answer I can give you. No matter what Earth threw at us, we refused to accept extinction. We fought back. We adapted. We changed ourselves and our world to give ourselves a better chance. When the ice came, we made fire and clothes. When predators hunted us, we made weapons. When disease killed us, we invented medicine. When food ran out, we learned to farm. Every challenge Earth presented, we found a way to overcome. She walked back to the display showing her home world. Her hand reached out and touched the image gently, as if she could feel the blue oceans and green forests through the screen. Earth is harsh, she said. Earth is deadly. Earth has been trying to kill us for our entire existence, but Earth also made us strong. Every danger we survived made us tougher, smarter, more determined. We are the children of a world that shows no mercy, and that world shaped us into survivors. Captain understood now. She understood why the Concord's predictive models had failed. Those models assumed that life on a Class 15 world would be stunted, primitive, forever struggling just to exist. They never accounted for the possibility that such conditions might produce something extraordinary. "Your species was forged in fire," she said. "Yes," said, "and we are still here. We did not just survive Earth. We conquered it. We built cities that span continents. We rivers and moved mountains. We split the atom and reached for the stars. Earth made us what we are, and now we are spreading beyond Earth to find new worlds, new challenges, new things to survive." She turned to face the crew. Her expression was calm, but there was something fierce burning behind her eyes. "I know I must seem frightening to you, a creature from a world of death and danger, but I want you to understand something. We did not become strong because we wanted to hurt others. We became strong because we had to. We had no choice. It was adapt or die, fight or perish. And now that we have reached the stars, we are not looking for enemies. We are looking for friends, for allies, for others who have survived their own challenges and made it to the void." Aura felt something shift inside her. The fear was still there, but it was joined by something new: respect, admiration, perhaps even hope. "You said there are more of you," she said. "On Earth, how many?" Smiled. "The last count I heard before I left on my mission was approximately 8 billion. The number hung in the air. 8 billion. 8 billion creatures forged on a Class 15. 8 billion survivors. Captain felt her legs weaken. She had to sit down. 8 billion, she repeated, and they all want to come to space. Many of us, yes. We are explorers at heart. We always want to know what is over the next hill, across the next ocean, beyond the next star. It is in our nature. Earth is our home, but the universe is our destination." Looked at her crew. She saw the fear on their faces, but she also saw the wonder. They were witnessing history, the discovery of a species that should not exist, that every rule of survival that had turned a world of death into a launching pad for the stars. "We need to contact the Galactic Concord Council," she said. "They need to know about this, all of it." "Of course," said, "but if I may ask a favor first." "What is it?" "I would like to send a message to Earth. My people will be worried about me. They will want to know that I am alive and that I have made first contact with an alien civilization. They will want to come find me." Hesitated. The idea of more humans coming here, perhaps many more, was terrifying, but it was also inevitable. Earth knew how to build ships. Earth had sent this explorer into the void. Earth would send more. "Yes," she said, "you may send your message, but I want you to include something in it." "What?" "Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we want to be friends. Tell them." She paused, searching for the right words. "Tell them the galaxy is ready to meet humanity." Smile widened. For the first time since they had met her, she looked truly happy. "Thank you," she said. "You will not regret this. Humans can be difficult sometimes, but we are loyal friends. Once we decide someone is worth protecting, we will fight for them against anything, even against our own world." She began working with Aura to set up a communication link. In a few hours, a message would travel across the stars to a blue-green planet circling a yellow sun. And when that message arrived, everything would change. The children of the were about to introduce themselves to the galaxy. The days that followed were the strangest in Aura's life. The message to Earth had been sent. Now they waited for a response, and while they waited, the crew of the Whisper of Tides had a chance to learn more about their human guest. What they learned challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. Recovered quickly. This itself was remarkable. When they had found her, she had been dehydrated, malnourished, and exhausted after 8 years alone in a failing ship. Any member of a known species would have needed weeks or months of medical care. was on her feet and asking for solid food within 3 days. "Your healing rate is abnormal," said medical officer, studying his scanner readings. "Your body is repairing itself faster than our equipment can measure." "Humans are good at healing," said. She was eating something from a nutrient pack that had no food suitable for humans, so she had to make do with basic supplements. "We evolved to survive injuries that would kill most creatures. Broken bones, deep cuts, infections. Our bodies can recover from almost anything if we give them time." "What about limbs?" asked. "Can you regrow lost limbs?" "No, unfortunately not, but we can build artificial replacements, prosthetics. Some of them are so advanced now that they work better than the original limbs." Flexed her fingers. "I once knew a soldier who lost both legs in combat. They gave him mechanical replacements. Within a year, he was running faster than he ever could before." The idea of replacing body parts with machines was disturbing to their culture valued the natural body, unchanged and unmodified. But they were beginning to understand that humans had a different relationship with their bodies. For humans, the body was a tool to be maintained, repaired, and improved as necessary. Aura spent most of her time with. The human seemed to enjoy talking, explaining her world and her species to an audience that found everything she said fascinating and horrifying. They would sit in the common area of the ship, sharing meals, or at least sitting together while ate, and Aura absorbed nutrients through her skin and would tell stories. "Tell me about your social structure," said one evening. "How do humans organize themselves?" Thought about the question. That is complicated. We have many different types of social organization: families, tribes, cities, nations. We have spent most of our history fighting with each other about the best way to live together. Fighting with each other? You mean internal conflicts? Yes, wars. Humans have fought wars against each other since before recorded history. Wars over land, wars over resources, wars over ideas, wars over religion. We are very good at fighting. This was deeply disturbing to Aura. They had occasional disputes, but the idea of organized violence between members of the same species was difficult to understand. "Why would you fight your own kind?" she asked. "Many reasons. Sometimes we fight because we want what others have. Sometimes we fight because we believe different things and cannot accept that others disagree. Sometimes we fight because we are afraid." The expression darkened. "Sometimes we fight because we like it. There is a part of human nature that enjoys combat. We try to control that part, to channel it into sports and competitions, but it is always there." "This frightens me," said Aura honestly. Humans can be very dangerous when we turn on each other. Our history is filled with terrible acts of violence and cruelty." Paused. "But there is another side to that coin. The same aggression that makes us dangerous also makes us protective. When humans decide that someone or something is worth defending, we will fight for them with everything we have. We will die for our families. We will sacrifice ourselves for our friends. We will stand against impossible odds to protect those we love. You harm those you hate and defend those you love." Yes, we contain both extremes. That is one of the hardest things about being human. We have the capacity for great evil and great good, and the line between them is not always clear. Navigator joined them at the table. He had been terrified of at first, but his curiosity had eventually overcome his fear. He still kept his distance, but he was no longer afraid to speak to her. "I have been reading about Earth animals," he said, "specifically about your domesticated creatures. What are dogs?" His face changed. Her eyes softened, and a gentle smile curved her lips. It was the most positive expression had seen from her. "Dogs are wonderful," said. "They are our oldest and best friends. But according to the records, dogs are descended from wolves, pack predators, carnivores." "Yes. Thousands of years ago, humans and wolves began living near each other. Some wolves were less afraid of humans than others. Those wolves got food scraps from our camps. Over time, they became dependent on us and we became attached to them. We bred them for different purposes: hunting, guarding, herding, companionship. They became dogs. You took predators and made them into companions. More than companions, family. Dogs love their humans with a pure, unconditional devotion that is hard to describe. They wait for us when we are gone. They celebrate when we return. They protect us from danger and comfort us when we are sad. In return, we feed them and shelter them and love them back. Was clearly struggling with this concept. You share your homes with creatures that evolved to hunt and kill. Not just dogs, cats too. Cats are predators, smaller than dogs but very efficient killers. They hunt rodents and birds. We brought them into our homes to control pests, and they decided to stay. Most cats act like they own their humans rather than the other way around, but we do not mind. Are there other predators you keep as pets? Some humans keep snakes, or spiders, or even large cats like tigers, though that is dangerous and usually illegal. Humans have a strange relationship with dangerous creatures. We fear them, but we also admire them. Sometimes we want to be close to them, to prove that we can handle the danger. Made a note in her data pad. This pattern was appearing again and again in human behavior. They did not avoid danger. They sought it out, confronted it, tried to master it. It was the opposite of how thought about risk. "Tell me about human food," said Aura. "What do you eat?" "Almost everything," said. "We are omnivores. We eat plants and animals. Fruits, vegetables, grains, meat, fish, insects. If it has nutritional value and will not kill us immediately, some human culture has probably tried to eat it." "You eat other animals. You consume their flesh." "Yes, we are predators, remember. Meat is an important part of our diet. It provides protein and nutrients that are difficult to get from plants alone. We raise animals for food: cattle, pigs, chickens, and we hunt wild animals as well." Looked slightly ill. They were herbivores. The idea of eating another creature was revolting to them. "We also eat things that should be poison," continued. "There is a chemical called capsaicin. It is produced by certain plants as a defense mechanism. It causes intense pain and burning sensations when consumed. Most animals learn to avoid these plants. Humans eat them on purpose. We call them hot peppers, and some of us compete to see who can eat the hottest ones without crying." "You deliberately cause yourself pain through food." "Yes, we also consume alcohol, a chemical that is technically a poison. It impairs our judgment, damages our organs over time, and can be addictive. But in moderate amounts, it creates a pleasant feeling of relaxation and lowered inhibition. Almost every human culture has developed some form of alcoholic drink." "You poison yourselves for pleasure." When you put it that way, it sounds bad. But yes, we also consume caffeine, a stimulant that keeps us alert and focused, and nicotine, another addictive chemical that we absorb through smoking dried plant leaves. Humans have a complicated relationship with substances that alter our minds and bodies. Was writing furiously. Every detail shared revealed a species that lived in constant dialogue with danger. They did not just survive threats. They sought them out, consumed them, made them part of their daily lives. "What about your sleep cycles?" she asked. "How much do humans sleep?" "Typically about 8 hours per day, though some people need more or less. We usually sleep at night and are active during the day, but we can adapt to different schedules if necessary. Soldiers, medical workers, factory workers, many humans work through the night and sleep during the day." "Can you function without sleep?" "For a limited time. The record for staying awake is about 11 days, but that caused serious health problems. Most humans can push through 1 or 2 nights without sleep if necessary, but our performance decreases significantly. After about 3 days without sleep, we start to hallucinate and lose touch with reality." "What happens if you sleep too little over a long period?" "Our health suffers. Our immune system weakens. We become irritable and make poor decisions. Eventually, it can kill us. But humans are notorious for not getting enough sleep. We have so many things we want to do that we often sacrifice sleep to do them. First officer had been listening from across the room. Now he approached, his curiosity finally overcoming his caution. "I have been studying your ship," he said to, "the Arcturus Dream. I have some questions about its design." "Of course. Your ship uses chemical rockets for propulsion, very primitive by our standards, but the fuel mixture is highly volatile, extremely dangerous. One small malfunction could cause a catastrophic explosion." "Yes, we know. Many humans have died in rocket accidents over the years. It is one of the risks of space travel. But you do it anyway. You climb into vessels filled with explosive fuel and launch yourselves into the void." "How else would we reach space?" smiled its horrified expression. "The first humans who went to space knew they might die. They went anyway. We called them astronauts and they were heroes. They risked everything to take the first steps off our world." "Did any of them die?" "Yes, several missions ended in tragedy. Capsules caught fire. Rockets exploded. Ships broke apart during re-entry. We mourned them, learned from our mistakes, and kept going." "You kept sending people into space, even after others had died." "Stopping was never an option. Space was too important, too full of possibilities. The humans who died would not have wanted us to give up. They would have wanted us to learn from their deaths and do better." His voice carried a weight of history. "Every astronaut who climbs into a rocket knows the risks. They accept them because they believe that exploring space is worth the danger. That is who we are. We risk death to reach for things beyond our grasp." The conversation shifted to human history. Told them about the great explorations of Earth, sailors who crossed unknown oceans in wooden ships, explorers who walked across frozen continents, scientists who ventured into places of extreme heat or cold or depth. Each story followed the same pattern. Humans encountered the unknown, accepted the risk, and pushed forward. "Your species is insane," said. It was not an insult. It was a genuine conclusion based on the evidence. "Probably," agreed. "But our insanity has taken us far. We have walked on our moon. We have sent robots to explore other planets in our system. We have built telescopes that can see galaxies billions of light years away. And now we are reaching for the stars themselves. None of that would have been possible if we were sensible and cautious." "How do you decide what risks are worth taking?" "We argue about it constantly. Some humans are more cautious, others more reckless. We have governments and regulations that try to balance safety against progress. But in the end, there are always people willing to take chances, to be the first ones through the door. Those are the people who change things." Aura thought about the approach to risk. Her people avoided danger whenever possible. They built ships with multiple redundant systems. They explored slowly and carefully, always ready to retreat at the first sign of trouble. It was a sensible approach, and it had kept them safe. But it had also kept them from doing many things. They had never colonized dangerous worlds. They had never pushed the boundaries of their technology beyond what was proven safe. They were survivors, yes, but they were not pioneers, not like humans. "What happens when humans encounter something truly dangerous?" she asked. "Something that cannot be overcome with courage and determination." Was quiet for a moment. "We die," she said finally. "Sometimes, not everyone survives, but even then we do not give up. We remember those who fell, we learn from their failures, and we try again." "What if the danger is too great? What if it truly cannot be overcome?" "Then we find another way. We change ourselves. We change our tools. We change our approach. Humans are extremely creative when our survival is at stake." Leaned forward. "There is no problem we will not try to solve, no obstacle we will not try to overcome. It is not always smart, it is not always successful, but it is who we are." Captain joined the gathering. She had received a preliminary response from the Galactic Concord Council. They were shocked and fascinated by the discovery of humanity, and they had many questions. But more importantly, They had detected something on long-range sensors. "Commander," said, "we have received word that a response is coming from Earth." Stood up immediately. They received my message. "Yes, and they are coming. Our sensors have detected a fleet of vessels emerging from the region you call the Silence. They are heading directly toward our position." A fleet, the expression shifted. She looked both hopeful and worried. "How many ships?" "Our current count is 23, but more may be coming." The room went silent. 23 ships, coming from Earth. A world of 8 billion predators was sending 23 ships to collect their lost explorer. "That is a lot of ships just to rescue one person," said, his voice trembling. Shook her head. "They are not just coming for me. They are coming because of what I told them, that I have made first contact with an alien civilization. For humans, that is one of the most important moments in our history. They want to meet you." "And the fleet, why so many ships?" "Partly for safety. Space is dangerous and they would not want to risk losing the entire expedition to a single accident. But also," hesitated, "humans tend to make a strong first impression. When we meet someone new, we want to show them what we are capable of." Captain felt a complex mixture of emotions. Fear, certainly. A fleet of vessels from was terrifying to contemplate, but also something else. Excitement, anticipation. The universe was about to change and she was at the center of it. "How long until they arrive?" asked Aura. "Based on their current speed, approximately 6 standard days." 6 days. 6 days until the children of Earth reached them. 6 days until the galaxy met humanity in force. Walked to a window and looked out at the stars. Her expression was unreadable. "I hope you are ready," she said softly. "My people can be overwhelming. We do not mean to be, we are just enthusiastic about everything." Aura joined her at the window. "What should we expect?" "Questions, endless questions. Humans will want to know everything about you, your biology, your history, your culture, your technology. They will want to trade knowledge and ideas. They will want to be friends." "And if we do not want to be friends?" Turned to look at her. Those forward-facing predator eyes were calm but serious. "Then they will want to know why. Humans do not handle rejection well. It is one of our weaknesses." She paused. "But they will not force you. Whatever else we are, we have learned that friendship cannot be compelled. If you ask them to leave, they will leave. They will be disappointed, but they will respect your wishes." "You are certain of this?" "I am certain that they will try. Humanity is not perfect. We make mistakes. We sometimes act out of fear or anger or misunderstanding. But at our core, we want to connect with others. We have been alone in the universe for so long. The chance to meet another intelligent species, to share our stories and learn yours, that means everything to us." Aura thought about this. For the galaxy had always been populated. They had known about other species but for humans, existence had been a solitary journey. They had looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. They had searched for signals, sent messages into the void, hoped desperately for an answer. And now they had found one. "We will welcome your fleet," said Aura, "and we will give humanity a chance." Smiled, that strange, teeth-showing expression that no longer seemed quite so terrifying. "Thank you," she said. "You will not regret it. Humans make good friends, loyal, protective. A little crazy, yes, but always interesting." She turned back to the window, watching the distant stars where her people were coming from. Somewhere out there, 23 ships full of humans were racing through the darkness, eager to meet the beings who had saved their lost explorer. The galaxy was about to change forever, and found that she was looking forward to it. The Galactic Concord Council Chamber was vast and ancient. It had been built thousands of years ago, when the first species of the galaxy had come together to form an alliance of peace and cooperation. The walls curved upward in great arcs, covered with symbols representing every member species. Floating platforms held delegates from 100 different worlds, each species as different from the others as land is from sea. Today, every platform was occupied, every delegate was present, and every eye was focused on the holographic display in the center of the chamber, which showed the face of Commander. "The report from Captain of the Whisper of Tides has been," said High Chancellor, the ancient leader of the council. He was a species of tall, thin beings with silver skin and eyes that glowed with inner light. He had led the council for over a century, and he had seen many strange things in that time, but nothing like this. "The human species is real. They come from a class 15 in the region we call the Silence, and they have achieved." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species whispered among themselves. Others made sounds of disbelief or fear. A few sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they were hearing. "This is impossible," said Delegate of the Combine. There were beings, their armored bodies clicking with agitation. "No intelligent life can evolve on a Class 15 world. The conditions are too hostile. The survival rate is too low. This must be some kind of deception." "It is no deception," said High Chancellor. "They have performed extensive biological scans of the human. Her genetics confirm that she evolved on a world with Earth's exact conditions. There is no question about her origin." "Then the classification system is wrong," said another delegate. "Perhaps Earth is not truly a Class 15 world." "We have reviewed the original survey data. Earth meets every criterion for Class 15 classification. If anything, the actual conditions may be worse than our records indicate." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, demanding explanations, expressing fear, calling for action. High Chancellor raised one silver hand, and gradually the noise subsided. "I understand your concerns," he said. "This discovery challenges everything we believed about the evolution of intelligence, but the facts are clear. Humans exist. They have survived on a world that should have destroyed them, and now they are coming here." He gestured, and the display changed to show a map of space. A cluster of dots was moving through the darkness, approaching the position of the Whisper of Tides. 23 human vessels were detected leaving their home system. They are traveling at speeds that suggest a primitive but functional faster-than-light drive. At their current rate, they will reach our scout vessel in approximately 4 days. "A fleet," said Delegate of the. Her voice was calm, but her large eyes showed deep concern. "They are sending a fleet in response to first contact. Is this a show of force?" "Unknown. Commander claims that humans are coming to rescue her and to meet us peacefully, but we have no way to verify her intentions or the intentions of her species." "Then we should prepare for the worst," said Delegate. "If these creatures survived a Class 15 world, they are dangerous beyond measure. We should mobilize our defensive forces and prepare to contain the threat." "On what grounds?" asked Delegate Ra of the. There were small, gentle beings covered in soft fur. They were philosophers and poets, not warriors. "The humans have done nothing hostile. Their explorer was alone and dying when our people found her. If they wanted to attack us, they would not have sent a distress signal. They did not know we existed until we found them. Now that they know, everything changes." The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued for immediate military action, insisting that humanity was too dangerous to allow into the galactic community. Others called for patience, pointing out that the Concord's founding principles required them to offer peace to all spacefaring species. A few suggested simply waiting to see what the humans would do. High Chancellor listened to all of them. When the arguments finally began to repeat themselves, he called for silence. "We have heard many perspectives," he said. "But before we make any decisions, I believe we need more information. I have asked a specialist to address the Council. Dr. L is our foremost expert on the study of alien minds. She has been reviewing all available data on human behavior." A new figure rose on one of the platforms. Dr. L was a like captain, but her scales had the deeper blue color of a scholar who spent most of her time indoors studying archives. She looked nervous facing so many delegates, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "Thank you, High Chancellor. I have been analyzing the conversations recorded between Commander and the crew of the Whisper of Tides. What I have learned is complex." She activated her own display, showing images and data alongside her words. Humans are indeed dangerous. Their bodies are built for endurance and conflict. They evolved as pursuit predators, capable of chasing prey until it collapses from exhaustion. They have survived countless threats that would have destroyed any other species: ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, even impacts from large space objects. "This confirms our concerns," said Delegate. "Please let me finish. Yes, humans are physically dangerous, but their psychology is equally complex. They are not mindless killers. They have developed rich cultures, diverse philosophies, and sophisticated moral systems. They create art and music. They write poetry and tell stories. They have concepts of justice, mercy, and compassion." "Predators can still appreciate beauty," said. "That does not make them safe." "You are correct. But consider this. Humans have a concept called empathy. They can imagine themselves in the position of others, can feel what others feel. This ability extends beyond their own species. Commander described how humans protect creatures that provide them no benefit. They save animals from extinction, care for injured wildlife, even adopt predators as beloved companions. "They keep predators as pets," said Delegate Ra. "I read that in the report. It is strange, but perhaps also touching. It suggests that humans are capable of forming bonds with beings very different from themselves. This is relevant to our current situation. If humans can befriend wolves and cats, species that once threatened them, perhaps they can befriend us as well." Dr. L changed her display to show images from Earth, cities filled with towering buildings, vehicles moving through crowded streets, spacecraft launching into the sky. "There is another factor we should consider. Humans are extremely adaptable. They have taken materials from their dangerous world and shaped them into tools for survival and expansion. Their technology is primitive by our standards, but it is advancing rapidly. The first human-powered flight occurred only about 200 of their years ago. Within 60 years, they had reached their moon. Now they are building ships that can cross interstellar distances. Their rate of technological advancement is alarming," said High Chancellor. "Yes, if they gain access to conquered technology, they will adapt it quickly. Within generations, they could match or exceed our capabilities." Dr. L paused. "This is why I believe we have a choice. We can treat humans as enemies and try to contain them, or we can treat them as friends and help guide their development." "Guide them," said Delegate. "You suggest we share our technology with these creatures." "I suggest we consider it. Humans will advance regardless of what we do. The question is whether they advance as our allies or our adversaries. A species this determined, this adaptable, this resilient, we want them on our side." The council fell into thoughtful silence. Dr. L's argument was compelling. It was also terrifying. "What if they cannot be trusted?" asked a delegate from the back of the chamber. "What if their violent nature overcomes their capacity for friendship?" "Then we will have made a terrible mistake," said Dr. L. "But consider the alternative. If we reject them, if we treat them as threats to be contained, we may create the very enemy we fear. Humans respond to hostility with hostility. They survived their world by fighting back against everything that tried to destroy them. Do we really want to become their next adversary?" High Chancellor stood. His tall form cast a long shadow across the chamber floor. "Dr. L raises important points, but this decision is too significant for the Council alone. I propose that we send a delegation to meet the human fleet. Let us see for ourselves what kind of species they are. Let us offer peace and see how they respond. And if they respond with violence, then we will know, and we will act accordingly." He looked around the chamber. But I do not believe that will happen. Commander has shown us kindness and gratitude. She speaks of her species with pride but also with honesty about their flaws. These are not the traits of a species that cannot be reasoned with. The vote was called. It was close. Many delegates still feared humanity too much to risk contact. But in the end, the motion passed. The Galactic Concord would send a delegation to meet the human fleet. High Chancellor would lead the delegation himself. The diplomatic vessel Voice of Many departed the next morning. It was one of the most beautiful ships in the Concord fleet, designed not for war but for ceremony. Its hull was covered in the symbols of every member species, a floating declaration of unity and diversity. Inside, representatives from 12 different worlds prepared for the most important meeting in galactic history. High Chancellor spent the journey reviewing everything they knew about humans. He watched recordings of Commander speaking with the crew. He read analyses of human biology, psychology, and culture. He studied their art and listened to their music. The more he learned, the more fascinated he became. Humans were contradictions made flesh. They were violent and gentle, selfish and generous, fearful and courageous. They had committed terrible acts against each other and against their world, but they had also built wonders, created beauty, and reached for the stars. They were not good or evil in any simple sense. They were complicated. Perhaps that was the most human thing about them. The Voice of Many arrived at the rendezvous point 2 days later. The Whisper of Tides was waiting, and beside it floated the battered hull of the Arcturus Dream, the ship that had started everything. Commander was still aboard the vessel, recovering and preparing for the arrival of her people. High Chancellor requested a meeting with her before the human fleet arrived. She accepted, and they met in a conference room aboard the Voice of Many. She was smaller than he had expected. All the reports had emphasized how dangerous humans were, how resilient and aggressive. But the woman who sat across from him looked tired and thin. She had survived 8 years alone in space, and the experience had left marks on her body and in her eyes. "High Chancellor," she said, "thank you for coming. I know this must be frightening for your people." "It is," he admitted. "We have never encountered a species quite like yours. You challenge many of our assumptions about how intelligent life develops." "Earth has a way of breaking assumptions." She smiled slightly. "May I ask why you wanted to meet before my fleet arrives?" "I wanted to understand you, not humans in general, you specifically. You are the first of your kind we have encountered. You are the face of your species, at least for now. I want to know what kind of face that is." Was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned back in her chair and looked at him directly. "I am not the best example of humanity," she said. "I am a soldier, an explorer. I have done things I am not proud of. I have seen the worst parts of my species and the best parts. I do not know if I can represent all 8 billion of us. No one can represent an entire species, but you can represent yourself. Tell me who you are, Commander. Tell me what matters to you." She thought about the question for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "I am someone who wanted to see what was beyond the horizon. Ever since I was a child, I looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. I joined the military because it was the path to space. I volunteered for the longest missions, the most dangerous assignments, because I wanted to go farther than anyone had gone before." "And what did you find?" "Mostly darkness, cold, emptiness. Space is vast and silent and lonely. I spent years traveling through nothing, seeing no one, hearing no one. There were times I thought I would go mad." She paused. "But I also found beauty. I saw stars being born. I watched comets streak across the void. I stood on moons that no human had ever touched and looked back at the small blue dot where all my people lived. It was worth every moment of loneliness and fear. And now you have found us." "Yes, and everything changes." She met his glowing eyes. "I know you are afraid of us. I understand why. We are not a peaceful species. We have done terrible things to ourselves and our world, but we are trying to be better. We are trying to learn from our mistakes, and we are very, very eager to have friends in the universe. Why? Why does friendship matter to your kind? Because we have been alone for so long. Because no matter how many of us there are, we have always felt isolated in the cosmos. Because we believe that life is precious and every intelligent species that exists is a miracle worth celebrating. Her voice grew stronger. We did not come here to conquer or destroy. We came here because we hoped that we were not alone. And now that we know we are not alone, we want to reach out. We want to share. We want to belong to something larger than ourselves. High Chancellor listened carefully. He had lived for centuries. He had met countless beings from countless worlds. He had seen diplomats lie and truth-tellers deceive. But he heard no deception in Commander's voice. She believed what she was saying. She meant every word. "Your fleet will arrive soon," he said. "What should we expect?" Curiosity, excitement, probably some nervousness. Humans are social creatures. We need connection the way we need air and water. Meeting another intelligent species for the first time will be overwhelming for most of them. They may seem aggressive, but it is just enthusiasm. They want to know you. They want you to know them. And if we disappoint them, if we are not what they hope to find. Laughed that strange barking sound. Humans are very good at dealing with disappointment. We have had a lot of practice. Whatever you are, we will find something to appreciate about you. That is our nature. A signal chimed. The human fleet had been detected. They would arrive within the hour. High Chancellor stood and extended one silver hand toward Commander. She looked at it, then gently took it in her own five-fingered grip. Her skin was warm, warmer than his, with a texture that felt strange against his smooth scales. "Thank you for speaking with me," he said. "I believe I understand your species a little better now." "I hope so, and I hope you will give us a chance. Humans make good friends. We also make terrible enemies. I think you would prefer the former." "I think you are right." They walked together to the observation deck. Through the vast windows they could see the stars and something else. Lights were appearing in the darkness. Ships emerging from faster-than-light travel, one after another, spreading out in formation. 23 vessels. Ships of different sizes and designs built by different nations of Earth, unified under a single banner. They were not elegant like conquered ships. They were functional, practical, built to survive a hostile universe. But they were here. Against all odds, they had crossed the void. The children of the had arrived. And the galaxy would never be the same. The human fleet filled the of every conquered vessel. 23 ships hung in the darkness of space, their hulls by radiation and micrometeorite impacts, their designs rough and practical. They were nothing like the elegant vessels of the galactic conquered. They looked like they had been built by creatures who expected everything to try to kill them, and who were determined to survive anyway. High Chancellor stood on the bridge of the voice of many, watching the human vessels take formation. Behind him, delegates from 12 species waited in nervous silence. This was the moment they had debated, feared, and prepared for, first contact with humanity. The communication system crackled to life. "This is Admiral Way of the United Earth Expeditionary Corps, commanding the vessel Dawn of Discovery." The voice was calm and controlled, speaking through a universal translator that rendered the words into the conquered standard language. "We come in peace, seeking to recover our lost crew member and to establish friendly relations with any species willing to meet us." High Chancellor stepped forward. "This is High Chancellor of the Galactic Conquered. We have been expecting you. Your crew member, Commander, is safe aboard our diplomatic vessel. She has told us much about your species. I hope she made a good impression. Can be a bit intense when she is excited." She was informative. "We have learned a great deal about Earth and humanity. It has been a difficult education." There was a pause. When Admiral spoke again, there was a hint of humor in his voice. "I imagine it was. Our world is not gentle and neither are we, but we mean you no harm. We have traveled very far to meet you." "Then let us meet. Would you be willing to come aboard our vessel? We have prepared a space where representatives of both our peoples can speak face to face." "It would be our honor." The human shuttle that crossed between the fleets was small and functional. It carried Admiral and a delegation of 7 other humans, representing different nations and professions. When they stepped out into the docking bay of the Voice of Many, they entered a space filled with dozens of alien beings, 12 different species, shapes ranging from amphibian to things that had no easy comparison to Earth life. The humans stopped, they stared, and then slowly they smiled. It was not the threatening smile of predators. It was the smile of children discovering something wonderful. Their eyes moved from alien to alien, taking in every detail, filled with amazement and joy. "Hello," said Admiral. He was an older man with gray hair and lines around his eyes that suggested many years of hard service, but his face was bright with wonder. "We have waited a very long time for this moment. On behalf of all humanity, thank you for giving us this chance." High Chancellor stepped forward. "Welcome to the Galactic Concord, Admiral. We have questions for you, many questions." "And we have questions for you, many, many questions," laughed softly. "But first, if I may, where is Commander? We have been worried about her." Emerged from behind the delegation. She was wearing a clean uniform provided by and she looked healthier than she had in days. When she saw Admiral, her formal composure broke, and she moved forward quickly to embrace him. "Admiral," she said, "I did not think anyone would find me." "You knew we would come. We always come for our people." Held her for a moment, then stepped back and examined her face. 8 years alone. Most people would have lost hope. "I thought about giving up, many times, but then I would think about everyone waiting for me back home. My family, my friends, my crew. I could not let them down." "You never could." The Concord delegates watched this exchange with fascination. The obvious affection between the two humans, the way they spoke to each other, the easy physicality of their embrace, it revealed something about human nature that no report could capture. These creatures cared about each other, deeply, intensely. Delegate Rav stepped forward. The small, furry being was trembling slightly, but her voice was clear. "Admiral, may I ask you something?" Turned to her and his expression softened. To him, she probably looked like a small, harmless creature, perhaps similar to some of the animals humans kept as pets. "Of course." "You came all this way to rescue one person. 23 ships crossed space for a single crew member who might have been dead. Why?" Looked at, then back at Ra. "Because she is one of ours. Because every human life matters. Because if we abandon our people when they need us, we lose something essential about who we are." He paused. "Would you not do the same for one of your kind?" Ra thought about it. "I do not know, perhaps, but the cost, the risk." "The cost does not matter. The risk does not matter. When someone needs help, you help them. That is what humans believe." High Chancellor observed this exchange carefully. This was what Dr. L had described, the human capacity for loyalty and protection. It was not weakness. It was strength of a different kind. "Admiral," he said, "we have prepared a meeting space where we can speak more formally. There is much to discuss." "Lead the way, High Chancellor. We are eager to learn everything you can teach us." The formal discussions lasted for many hours. The human delegates asked endless questions about the Concord, its history, its member species, its technology. They were fascinated by everything, from the biology of each alien species to the politics of galactic governance. Their curiosity was relentless, almost overwhelming. But they also answered questions. They spoke openly about Earth, about human history, about the conflicts and achievements that had shaped their species. They did not hide the darker parts of their past, the wars, the cruelties, the mistakes. When asked about human violence, Admiral was direct. "Yes, we have fought terrible wars against each other. We have caused tremendous suffering. This is part of who we are, and we are not proud of it. But we have also learned from these experiences. We know the cost of violence better than any other species because we have paid that cost again and again. It is why we work so hard for peace. And yet you still have weapons, said Delegate. Your ships carry armaments. We live in a dangerous universe. We cannot afford to be defenseless, but we do not seek conflict. When we fight, it is to protect ourselves and those we care about. We have learned that war destroys everyone involved, winner and loser alike. Can you promise that you will never turn your weapons against us? Admiral was silent for a moment. I cannot make that promise on behalf of all humanity. We are not a unified species. We have different nations, different beliefs, different leaders. What I can promise is that I, personally, will advocate for peace. And I can promise that most humans want the same thing, to live in a galaxy where we do not have to fear each other. It was an honest answer. The delegates appreciated that, even if it was not entirely reassuring. The discussions moved to practical matters. The humans wanted to learn from the conquered, to understand alien technology and culture. The conquered wanted to understand humanity better, to assess whether they could be trusted with advanced knowledge. They negotiated carefully, neither side willing to commit to more than they were ready for. But beneath the formal talks, something else was happening. The human delegates were interacting with aliens on a personal level, sharing meals, exchanging stories, learning names and customs. One human scientist spent an hour discussing biology with a researcher, asking about their ocean world with genuine interest. A human pilot taught a young engineer how to play a simple card game. A human diplomat listened patiently, while a delegate explained the complex social structure of their hive. It was not diplomacy in the formal sense. It was something more basic. Humans were doing what they did best, making connections, building relationships, turning strangers into friends. Watched all of this with wonder. She had spent more time with than anyone, and she had begun to understand the human need for social connection. But seeing it applied to so many different species at once was remarkable. Humans reached out instinctively, naturally, as if forming bonds with others was as essential to them as breathing. She found sitting alone near a window, looking out at the gathered fleets. Your people are impressive, said Aura. They have only been here for a few hours, and already they are making friends with species they never knew existed. Smiled, we cannot help it. Humans are social creatures. We need connection the way we need food and water. Being alone is painful for us. Finding others to share our lives with, that is what makes us happy. Even others so different from yourselves. Especially others different from ourselves. Different is interesting. Different teaches us new things. Different makes us grow. Turn to look at Aura. You are different from me in every possible way. And yet in the time I have known you, you have become my friend. I care about what happens to you. I want good things for you. Is that strange? Aura felt something warm bloom in her chest. It is strange, she admitted, but it is also welcome. I have felt the same way about you. Then perhaps that is the beginning. Two friends from two worlds. And from here maybe more friendships can grow. Maybe someday humans and will be allies, partners, family in some larger sense. Family. A human concept. The people we are connected to, who we care for and who care for us. It does not require blood relation. It requires only love and commitment. Reached out and gently touched Aura's webbed hand. You found me when I was dying alone in the void. You saved my life. Among my people, that creates a bond. You are family now, whether you want to be or not. Aura did not know what to say. Family. It was such a simple word, but from a human, it seemed to carry immense weight. High Chancellor approached them. His silver face was thoughtful, his glowing eyes soft with contemplation. Commander, he said, may I speak with you privately for a moment? Of course, High Chancellor. They walked together to a quiet corner of the observation deck. The stars shone beyond the windows, ancient and eternal, watching the meeting of civilizations as they had watched all things since the beginning of time. "I have observed your people today," said. "I have listened to your admiral and your scientists and your diplomats. I have watched how you interact with species you have never met. And I have one question that I must ask you." "Please ask." "Your world tried to destroy you. Every day of your existence you faced death in 1,000 forms. You survived by fighting, by enduring, by refusing to yield. I understand all of this." He paused. "What I do not understand is how you became kind. How did your species develop compassion, generosity, the desire to help others? These traits do not seem like survival advantages. They should have been eliminated long ago." Was quiet for a long moment. She looked out at the stars, at the fleet of human ships floating among alien vessels, at the future that was taking shape before her eyes. "That is the question, is it not?" she said finally. "How did a species forged in violence learn to be gentle? How did predators learn to love?" "Yes, that is exactly my question. I think the answer is in the violence itself." She turned to face him. "Earth did not just threaten us with predators and diseases and natural disasters. It threatened to isolate us. One human alone is weak. One human alone cannot survive the dangers of our world. But humans together, cooperating, protecting each other, sharing resources, we could survive almost anything. So cooperation is a survival strategy. It started that way, but it became something more. When you spend your whole life relying on others, caring for others, protecting others, you develop the capacity for love. And once that capacity exists, it does not stay limited to your own tribe or family. It expands. It reaches out. It finds new connections, new people to care about. You are saying that your kindness evolved from your need for each other. Yes, we are kind because we had to be. We are compassionate because compassion kept us alive. We are generous because generosity created bonds that made our group stronger." Smiled. "Earth tried to destroy us, and in doing so it taught us to depend on each other. And dependency became love. And love became who we are." High Chancellor considered this. It was a beautiful answer. It was also, he thought, probably true. The harsh conditions of Earth had not just produced tough, resilient survivors. They had produced beings who could not survive without each other, and who had transformed that need into something precious. "I believe I understand now," he said. "Your world did not just forge your strength, it forged your hearts." "Yes, that is exactly right." "Then I have made my decision." He straightened to his full height. "I will recommend that the Galactic Concord welcome humanity into our community. You will be given provisional membership, with the opportunity to earn full standing over time. We will share our knowledge with you, and you will share yours with us. Together, we will face whatever challenges the future brings." His eyes filled with tears, a human response to strong emotion that did not fully understand, but that he recognized as sincere. "Thank you," she whispered. "You will not regret this." "I do not believe I will." He placed one silver hand on her shoulder, a gesture of connection, of acceptance. "Welcome to the galaxy, Commander. Welcome to the family." The formal announcement was made the next day. High Chancellor addressed the combined fleets, human and alien alike, through a universal broadcast. He spoke of the discovery of humanity, the fear and uncertainty that had followed, and the decision that had been reached. "The Galactic Concord was founded on a principle," he said, "that intelligent life is precious wherever it is found, that cooperation is stronger than conflict, that the unknown should be explored, not feared. Today, we honor that principle by welcoming a new species into our community." The images on the screen showed humans and aliens standing together, talking, laughing, beginning the long process of becoming friends. Humanity comes to us from a world of fire and storm, of predators and plagues, of challenges that would have destroyed any other species. They survived because they could not accept defeat. They reached for the stars because they could not accept limits. and they came to us in peace because they could not accept loneliness." He paused, letting his words sink in across 100 worlds. "They are not perfect. They are violent and passionate and sometimes frighteningly determined. But they are also loyal, creative, and capable of love that knows no boundaries. They have much to learn from us, and I believe we have much to learn from them." The screen showed Admiral and High Chancellor shaking hands, a human gesture of agreement that the conquered had adopted for this historic moment. Let it be recorded in the annals of history. On this day, the children of Earth took their place among the stars. May this union bring wisdom, growth, and hope to all beings in the galaxy. The broadcast ended. Across human and alien ships, cheers erupted. Celebrations began that would last for days. Two civilizations, brought together by chance and held together by choice, began the long journey toward understanding. Aura found on the observation deck of the Voice of Many, watching the celebrations through the window. The human was crying again, but she was also smiling. "You did it," said Aura. "You brought your people into the galaxy." "We did it," said, "You found me. You saved me. You gave us a chance." She wiped her eyes. "I will never forget that. None of us will." "What happens now?" "Now we learn, we explore, we make friends. We face new challenges and overcome them together." Turned to look at her friend, her family. "It will not be easy. There will be misunderstandings, conflicts, mistakes, but we will work through them. That is what humans do. That is what families do. And if some in the galaxy cannot accept you, then we will try to change their minds. And if we cannot change their minds, we will prove them wrong through our actions. We will be better than they expect. We will be worthy of the trust you have placed in us." Aura believed her. She had seen enough of human nature to know that they meant what they said. They were impossible creatures from an impossible world, and they were going to change everything. But standing here, watching the celebrations, feeling the warmth of hope in her heart, she thought that maybe change was exactly what the galaxy needed. Far away, in the heart of the human fleet, Admiral stood on the bridge of the dawn of discovery. He looked out at the alien vessels, at the stars beyond, at the vast universe that had suddenly become so much larger. "Well," he said to no one in particular, "we are not alone anymore." His first officer smiled. "No, sir, we are not. What do we do now?" Thought about all the challenges ahead, the negotiations, the adaptations, the long process of building trust across species. It would be the work of generations, but it was work worth doing. "Now," he said, "we make friends, as many as we can, and then we see what we can build together." Outside, the stars shone bright and eternal. They had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Now they would witness something new, a species born on a world of death, reaching out to embrace the universe with open arms. The children of the had found their place among the stars. And they were just getting started.